Okay, I'm going to start the lesson now. Before I start, I just want to give a quick overview of what we did yesterday. I'm not really going to explain it again entirely, but I just want to remind you what we did if you forgot some of the stuff. So if you remember, I showed you examples of 4 data types. They were floats, this is the float, integers, this is the integer, strings, this is the string, and lists, right? Um, and wait, I'm not sure if you heard the last part. I'm just going to repeat it. I showed you, for example, I showed you examples of 4 data types. They were floats, integers, strings, and lists, right? And I gave you 4 examples. I mean, one example for each one. So just to make sure we understand everything one more time, we know that the variable name was this variable name was str, and str stands for string, and strings are just sequence of letters. And age stood for int, which stands for integer, which is a whole number. And pi is a float. If you remember, I showed you pi equals 3.14, and this is clearly decimal, it's not an integer. So it can't fit into this data type, but it fits into that type float. So we call it float. Then for cars, we can see that it's a list since we just listed 3 types of cars, which are BMW, Mercedes, and Range Rover. So now that we got that out of the way, like I told you yesterday, that today we're going deeper to strings. So we're going over a couple of things today, including strings, working with numbers, booleans, and if statements. And we're doing them in that order with a 2-minute break in between each one. So let's just start with the lesson for strings. So I'm just going to delete this. Alright, so strings are very important programming, and I mean that when I say it. So you will end up using them quite a bit if you're doing anything in Python probably. So let me just write a variable here right quick. We're going to write name equals, and like the same thing we did for yesterday. And I used the names Usam and Iyad yesterday, so let me just pick another name for participants. Okay, I'm going to pick Yazan. This here, Yazan. Then now let's just press enter and open up another line of code. So let's create a second variable. We're going to make it family name equals Muhammad. And I know your name is Muhammad, but Muhammad is easier. So I'm going to write family name equals, then single quotes, and the middle single quotes we can write Muhammad. Okay. So now just go to the 4th line of code and write full underscore name equals. What we're trying to do here is to combine the values of the content in the 2 variables on the top that are name and family name, to store them inside his full name. And I think that's pretty clear. So for this we can use the plus sign, so we can all go ahead and write like this: full name equals name plus family name. And I hope that all of you guys are following along on your own device on any IDE that supports Python while practicing the examples. And actually wait, this isn't making too much sense. We're going to change name in line 4, in line 1 and 4, to make it be first name. So make this first name, then go over here, make it first name. So the first variable here refers to this first name, and this variable here refers to this family name. Alright, now let's just print all the information we have stored here inside the variables to the console. So we just want to go down here and say print and parentheses full underscore name. I don't know why it keeps popping up. Okay, full underscore name. So if I run the program with this, we're going to start calling it the run button. If I run this program with the run button, yes, we can see the same thing that we saw yesterday, but the thing that you should be focused on is here, يزن وحامل. But you'll see that there's no space between them. There's no space between his first name and his last name. So now we can just go and fix that. So now if we look at full name equals first name plus family name, so we can just put a space after the plus and then add 2 single quotes like this, 2 single quotes. And I'm assuming you know what single quotes are by now. So now that we've done that, put a space between the single quotes, and then after the single quotes put a space and then equal sign, and then yeah, that's it. So your code right now in the fourth line should be full name space equals space first name space plus space single quote space plus space family name. Wait, kick me out to the meeting, but I'm back. Wait, I'm just going to share screen again. Okay. Can someone confirm if they hear me? Okay. So, what's the last thing I was saying here is how your code should look like this. So if your code just looks like that, then you're set. So now, if I run it, just run it here in the terminal with the run button, we'll see the same result, but there's a space between the first name and the last name. So now we can read Yazan Mukhamil. There's a space between them. So let's just close this up and go back to the code. We can read that it says first name plus family name, but in the middle of them there's a single quote with a single space, which makes the space between them when we run the code. So let me just run the code again, show you. It makes this space in between here. Okay, so now if we just close it up, I can show you how we could do many things with strings. So let's say that you want to find out the number of characters that the first name has, the first name Yazan has. The name you can see here. So we can add one more line of code. So actually just go to number 7 and write print, and then after print add open and close parentheses. So this is what your code should look like right now, and keep in mind we're trying to figure out the number of characters in the first name. So if we count, we can clearly tell that Yazan has 5 letters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we want to make a program where the computer itself would tell us that, since that teaches you a lot more about strings encoding than just counting quickly with your mind. So in the middle of parentheses write len, L-E-N. So this is what it should look like. Then after len also add parentheses. So open parentheses is len, open close parentheses, okay? And in the middle of that we write this first variable, first name. And also in the line directly on the bottom of it, so line 8, we write print len then L or LEN, doesn't really matter, family name, which is this variable over here. So now if we just click on the run button again, we can see that the first name Yazan has 5 characters, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters, and Muhammad has 8 characters, and we clearly determine that by the method here, len. So now there's another thing I want to show you here that has to do with strings. So if we all just go to the first line of code, and we see here that the name Yazan is capitalized, but for example, make it lowercase. So if I save this and click the run button, yes, if I save this and click the run button, you'll see that we have Yazan lowercase and Muhammad uppercase, but we want to have an uppercase in the first letter. So even though we did that, we want to make this Yazan here be uppercase in a different way. So let me just close this up again and go to the fourth line of code where we can see first name. We want to make it first name and then dot. Okay, so first name dot, and you can see as soon as I wrote the dot, a list of methods came up with things that we can use, and I'm going to cover all these methods or some of these methods later on, but I'm just going to show you one right now. So let's use method capitalize, the first one here that we get, method capitalize. You can just press on it, method capitalize, and I told you I want to capitalize the first letter that's lowercase in the first name, which is Yazan. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. And this word with parentheses, just like that. So it should be capitalized and then parentheses. So this is what it should look like. So this is you should have a parentheses that's capitalized. So let me just click on the button once again. We can now see here that name Yazan is uppercase. So even though we wrote lowercase here, we use the method over here which made it successfully make the first letter uppercase. So just to give you another one more example, let's add another line. So we're on number 9 of code right now. Let's say parent and then parentheses, and then in those parentheses we can just write full, wait, it's not working, okay, just full underscore name, which is this variable, and then we add a dot which gives us the ability to use the method of strings. So it should look like this. So we get all these methods, but we use ends with, and then in the end of that we add parentheses with single quotes. So it should look like this. So basically, just to explain this real quick, we're checking if full name ends with 2 single quotes, So let's just actually wait, no, that's not going to work. Now we want to check if it ends with hello. We're just checking if this ends with hello. Alright, so let's just, I don't think it would have worked if I didn't put anything. So hello. So now let's see if this full name ends with hello. And you'll see that we don't get a name or a capital letter or a lowercase letter or a number, but we get the statement false. So we conclude that the full name Yazan Muhammad in the first 2 lines over here, or the 4th line here, doesn't end with hello, but ends with Muhammad. So let's just go over here, delete hello, and write Muhammad, and you'll see that we get the statement true. I mean, we can see it ends with Muhammad here, so it has to be true. And you've probably realized that I haven't explained what these two statements, false and true, mean, but don't worry, I'll explain that in just a second. So, yeah, that's it for this section. This is how you work with strings. This is how you work with strings. And obviously, the world of programming isn't as small as this. I'm just showing you the four things you should know, or a small part of it, since it's too wide to just explain the small time I have. So, trust me, you could do a lot more things with this. So, now that we finished our first section, which is strings, we can take our 2 minutes break. And like I said, we're going to take 2 minutes between each section. So, yeah, like I said, just take that break, and then when you come back, we're going to do working with numbers. So, just in a couple of seconds now, I'll start with working with numbers. Okay. We've already taken more than 2 minutes break, so I'm just going to start now. But before we start, let me just delete all this code, since we're not going to need any of it since we finished with strings. And you should do the same too if you're following in an IDE. So now in Python you can use the arithmetic operator that you are used to, like plus and minus and division and multiplication. And then we have one that you might not be used to taking in your high school math class. This is what we call a modulo. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but this is how you type it. Modulo. So here with those signs, we can add, subtract, divide, multiply, and now you know even though you don't know what modulo is, you know you can use the modulus function. So let's say that you want to add two numbers. So let's just say that you have a variable, and let's just write addition, okay, and 10 plus 5. So of course all of us know 10 plus 5 is 15. So here in the second line I can say print addition, okay, like the first word in the first line. And then if we run the program by clicking the button over here, we get 15, since obviously 10 plus 5 is 15. And like I said, Python detects it when you use these arithmetic operators. You can use them in Python. And since this variable had 10 plus 15 stored in it, when we went to print, it counted the variables. I hope all of you know that by now. So now let's just move to the third line again. So actually, wait, let's just go to fourth line, and let's write multiplication equals 10, and this starts is the times sign, so 10 times 5. And then let's just move here and let's do division equals 10 divided, there should be a space between them, 10 divided by 5, or let's do it like this, 10 divided by 5. So now we just have to wait, I keep messing up. Okay, so now after we do that, we have to print all of these. So print multiplication, okay, and then division, we can say print division, okay. And then for, we can also do some subtraction, so subtraction equals 10 minus 5, okay. So print subtraction. So now we use the four arithmetic operators that you were used to. So now that we have all of these, we can just run the equation, and this is obviously simple stuff. 10 plus 5 is obviously 15. 10 divided by 5, that's 50. And then wait, 10 times 5, that's 50. And then 10 divided by 5, that's 2. And then 10 minus 5, that's 5. And see, you'll see that over here in decimal, when we do equation, we also get a decimal, so just something to remember. So this is how you work with numbers and perform arithmetic operations in Python. So there's one more thing in my mind that I want to show you, and that's something that I have talked about, but not what it is. So the thing is modulos. So just to make this easier, I'm going to call it mod throughout this lesson. So let's just write mod equals 10, and then this sign, the modulo sign, 5. So then we can also go and do what we do with the rest and print brackets, or I mean parentheses, mod. So we can go and print it. So now let's just go and press on run again, and yeah, we got, this is 10 minus 5 is 5, and the thing on the bottom of it was modulo, so we know that 10 and then the modulo sign by 5 is 0, and that was supposed to happen. So let me just explain to you why real quick. So this is what it's saying: it's saying how many times can 5 go into 10. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 5 goes into 2, um, 5 goes into 10 2 times. That's pretty simple elementary school stuff, right? But after 5 goes into 10 2 times, how much numbers are left from 10? So the mod is just simply the remainder of the number, okay? So 5 goes into 10 2 times and the remainder is 0. Hence why the answer when we run the code is 0. Yeah, it was 0. So now I'm just going to show you another example. So just so you know, we know you understand this. So we're going to replace 5 with 3. So all of you should know this. I don't know how someone's not going to know this. So how many times does 3 go into 10? 3 times, right? So that's 9, and there's going to be 1 left. So we know that the mod is the remainder, so let's just run the code and see the result. 3 goes into 10 3 times, and then so that's 9. 10 minus 9 is 1, so that's the answer. And we can see, as I said, and so wait, actually no, I have to talk about that. I just did. So now let me just replace 3 with 4. Just so we're 100% sure we understand what this is. So 4 goes into 10 2 times, so that's 8, right? So there's going to be 2 left, and if we just run the code, it shows us 2. So there you have it. This is how you work with numbers and perform arithmetic equations in them. Remember, all of these perform what you expect them to perform, but this modulo shows you the remainder of when, for example, 4 goes into 10, it shows you the remainder of the number after 4 goes into 10 2 times. So this was pretty easy. It's basically simple math, pretty easy overall. So now that we're finished, because there's really no more stuff, there's not really any more stuff to do with working with numbers, we can all just take another 2-minute break. Or actually, I only have 7 minutes remaining in the meeting, and we're only halfway done, so this is obviously going to take some time. So I'm just going to close this meeting and send another link in the group. So yeah, pressing end now. Please do not swear in the meeting. Not swearing in the meeting. الو، وش قاعد اسوي ده؟ Okay, so now that that problem has been fixed, I'm going to go on with the lesson. Alright, so now we're starting with booleans. Sometimes you need to know whether an expression is either true or false. This is when the boolean data type comes in. Before we start, I'm just going to get rid of all the code since we're done with these arithmetic operations. Okay, so now that's out of the way. If you remember when this keeps. I don't know what the problem with Doom is. Can you write in chat if they hear me? Oh, okay. I forgot to share the screen. It's okay. I didn't do anything so far. I just deleted the code. Because I don't know why Zoom always tells me that my mic has been disconnected, but then when I ask you if you hear me, you say that you hear me. Okay. So if you remember in the last section, you saw that sometimes when I ran the code, it told me either true or false. You told us two values, true or false. So these two values are used when you want to know these two values are used when you want to know if something is either true or false. So let me show you an example real quick. Let's say that we want to print to the console. When we're printing, we always have to do this: print and then parentheses. Let's say we just want to print to the console whether 10 is less than 10. So let's just add that to the first line of code. 10 less than 10. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with this. Less than 10. And remember from math, this sign tells us that the 10 on the right is more than the 10 on the left, which we know is not true, but we're doing this for the sake of the example. So now we want to know whether 10 is less than 10. So if we just run the code using the button on the top right, it says that this is false, since they're equal. 10 isn't greater than 10, so it says that it's false. So let's just close it up. But what would happen here if I added a equal sign? When we do this, it means that this 10 is either equal or greater than this 10. So let's run it and see what we get. Yes, it says true as we expected, since they're equal. You can see it's equal sign right here, and they're equal. So let's just do another one here on the third line. It should look like print, and always remember to use the parentheses when trying to print. Do not use a equal sign or whatever other thing you think of. Always use parentheses. So write 18 greater than 5. And is 18 greater than 5? Obviously. So let's just try this. In the fourth line, we can add an example. Let's say print, and then let's write like we used before. Let's use user's name. So we're going to use Yazan, and then if I put a dot in front of Yazan, it's going to be like, yes, if just here like this, Yazan then dot. Let me just write this from now. And with, if you remember, this dot makes us able to use methods. Makes us use the methods. So now after we do that, we can just write we can just write it like this. Okay, we can just write like this. I don't know why it keeps. Okay, wait, I'm just going to close this stream and open it real quick since it keeps lagging for me. I'm not going to take too long. Okay, so now that I'm pretty sure you can see it. Yes, it tells me that you can see it. Okay, so Yazan ends with S. So we're just going to use the method we previously used to know whether the name Yazan really ends with the letter S. So if I just take this line and Control C, Control V over here, and make it, wait, let's just make this wait, actually before we do all of that, let's just check something here. Oh wait, there's something I'm doing wrong. Oh, I just, okay, I don't know how I didn't realize it. Okay, Yazan ends with S. Okay, sorry, I don't know how I didn't realize that. Okay, so now if we run it, we'll see that this is false since Yazan ends with a N. So let's just replace this and put an N and see what we get. We get true since Yazan ends with N. So let's just add one more line and let's say, actually yes, like I just was going to do, let's just take Control C and then put it here, and then let me say Rayyan, for example, Rayyan, but I don't want to use the letter N since my name is with the letter N, so I'm going to use K. So here, if we run it once more, we get true, 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 false. So we know that all the Boolean data types were true except for one, since obviously my name doesn't end with a K, it ends with a N. And remember, these are we are using Boolean data types. Okay. So now let's move on with this. Let's try a different thing. So if we look at the second line of code, let's just write 0 equals 0. Okay, 0 equals 0. And does 0 equal 0? Yes, it does. 0 does equal 0. Okay, but let's try a different thing. Let's write 0 equals 1. Wait, I'm really confused now. I'm not sure why it isn't working. Wait. 0 equals 0. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure why it's working, but basically what I'm trying to do is write 0 equals 0, and then since 0 equals 0, it's supposed to show me that's right, and then, but if I click 0 equals 1, it's supposed to show me that it's false. Okay, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, since there isn't an error, but it doesn't pop up here. It doesn't pop up here when that's false, but basically this should be true. But then if I edit it to 0 equals 1, it should pop up that it's false. Okay, so just keep that in mind, since I don't know why it isn't working. So there you have it. This is how you have expressions. Okay, so these are 5 expressions to turn either true or false. So wait, let me just do one more thing. If we just go here to the seventh line of code and write is underscore adult equals true, I can actually store the value true inside is adult, and then if I go to the eighth line and write is teenager equals false, I can store the values true or false in here. So I can actually print these, and they actually give you the value. They actually give me the value true or false. They give me the value of either true or false. But these expressions in the top, like this one, for example, they give us this data type right here. They give us this data type, true, false, and like here, true, false, which is boolean. We call these booleans. A boolean is a value that represents true or false. So I can't really go too deep into this, but basically what I want to tell you is that you can actually also store the values true or false in things. So even though we got true and false from doing equations that were either true or false, that's not the only way you can get true or false, since you can also store true and false in equations. Okay, I'm just going to take another minute now, and yeah, I think it's good. Another minute now, and then I'm going to start the next lesson. Alright, it's been a minute now, so I'm just going to go on to the next session. Okay, next section. So the main reason why we have this boolean data type, like what if I just run this true or false, is because they allow us to perform decisions when writing code. So let me go ahead and just delete these first lines. Okay, these first lines. Actually, which is just a better way to delete them. The first lines. Keep the true adult thing for now, and let's just move to the first line. So with Python, we have something called I'll actually just delete this too. So with Python, we have something called the if statements, which is what we're going to be focusing on right now. The if statements allow us to control the flow of our programming. So up here is how we use the statement. How we use the if statement. I'm going to show you the third line. Okay. If statements work with Boolean expressions. So here I'm going to say if, and then is adult. So if is adult, so basically I'm just saying I'm just writing f space is underscore adult, which is the same thing we have here, and then we are also going to add a semicolon, so make it be like if is adult semicolon, and then press enter, and you'll see that my mouse, my whatever you call it, it went to kind of the middle of the expression, and that's fine, that's normal, that's what's supposed to happen, that's indenting. So I want to print to the console is adult in the fourth line after pressing enter third line, so print double quotes double quotes is adult. Okay, I want to print to the console is adult. So if I run this program by pressing the button on the bottom right, we get all this text up above, which we usually do, but most importantly we get the two words is adult in the bottom. So we know that we are actually printing is adult. We know that's successfully working. So if I close it up again and change the expression on the first line from true to false, let me just go and do that. If I change it from true to false, I really wish there was an alternative to Zoom, since this keeps kicking me out and just, I don't know, it keeps messing up, but it's fine. We won't have a lot more in the lesson. We can just continue. Okay. Wait. Okay, let's share. I'm sharing my screen now. So let's just go back here and let's just run this piece of code here. So, oh wait, actually I didn't add the thing I want to add. Okay. Wait, let me just think. Yes. Actually, wait, I was right, yes. Now, if we run this, because I changed true to false here, it shows us that it doesn't show us is adult or anything. So because of the fact that we wrote false, it doesn't print the code. So we're not printing anything. So this is the point of these Boolean expressions. So just to give you another example, here in the first line, instead of saying is adult, what I'm going to do is create a new line of code by pressing, press enter, and I won't say age equals 18. Age equals 18. Now after after is adult, we have another if statement. So let's just go to line 7, separate from the if statement here, and we're going to say if age greater than equals to 18 semicolon, and it should indent here print adult. Okay, print adult. So print parentheses single quote adult. Okay, so now and then after that we want to press enter after the parentheses to create a new line of code, and just press on the left arrow to go to start of the line of code, so I can show you another keyword. So start to write on the line of code, else yes, else print not an adult. Okay, so if is adult, print is adult. So if the theoretical person is adult, we print is adult. But if he's 18 or older, we consider him as a adult. But if he's not adult, so else, so if these aren't true to that person, else we print not an adult. And if I just run the program by pressing the button on top right, you can see that we get the word adult. Okay, so let me just close this up. This expression, if age has evaluated true, so if this is true, the lines 7 and 8 will be printed, right? So like I said, if he is 18 or older, then this would be true. So because this person here, because we wrote that he's 18, here we got this thing became true. So age equals to or greater than 18, he's 18. So we got, so this printed adult, and wait, this printed adult here in the terminal. And the expression on the 9th and 10th line will be skipped since these are true. But if this expression is false in line 7, then line 8 will not be executed, but the rest will be. So if one thing happens, the other thing doesn't. Alright, so let me just go back to the second line and change age 18 to age 17 to perfectly demonstrate what I mean. So when we run the code here, using the button on the top right, you can see that we have the words not an adult in the bottom. Not an adult. Alright. So this is how you work with if statements and booleans. If statements are, for example, this one, if is adult, print this, and if that, just print that. And booleans determine whether something is true or false. So one thing to remember that's very important is that you indent. You see, when I told you that it's normal to, before you're writing, to go here after you press enter, after if statement, it means that it's indenting. So if the intent, wait, so if you want to remove indent, you can press backspace. But if you also wanted it to come back, you could press tab. You could make an indent by pressing tab. So anything that comes after this statement, after this if statement, has to be indented. So let's just remove the indenting from line number 5 from here, and let's just run this. We're gonna experience error. Yeah, it says indentation error, expected an indented block. So like I said, this had to be indented. So it's very important to know when to indent. So if we just press tab here, we can just fix it again. So yeah, like I said, you'll see now that this error has went away. So now, before I just end the lesson for good, I'm going to give you one multiple choice question on each lesson we took, since there are certain things I want you to remember. I'm just going to stop sharing now and start sharing a Google slide presentation.